Ketchum, as much as we like to think, is not a bubble, and there's a bigger world with bigger solutions to our problems, and we need to take that into account. And we also need to collaborate with our locals, particularly the next generation. And as far as culture, I think we need to defend the arts, which create diversity and therefore resiliency in Ketchum. I think we need to preserve access to public lands, clean air, and clean water, because that's why we all live here. And I think we need to maintain the strength of community as a big thing about Ketchum that's always drawn me back. So the council needs to be more involved in the community. We need to work on preserving our culture, and we need to have young people involved for the future of Ketchum. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Quick correction. I do believe that police should stay in the city itself, in the core, but fire definitely should move down to the LI. The concentric circles that they measure response time in are much better for 90% of Ketchum if fire is down in the LI. But moving forward, you know, I love younger kids. I have 3 of them. I have a partner, 2 partners now that are younger. I like to think that I'm mentors to them, whether it's payroll, marketing, or installing a cabinet for them. You know, I've served Ketchum for 19 years now, and I want to serve you for another 4. And, I think you'd be foolish not to have me there.
Mickey Garcia.
Quickly, my public service has been 2 voluntary tours in Vietnam, and I was a wildland firefighter for about 12 years, almost full time. And I want to cut the mayor's salary by 50%, and I want to put term limits on the city council and the mayor, 2 terms all together combined, whether you're changed around or whatever. I think the public's being screwed by local politicians as well as national politicians. Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Fleeman.
I moved here 14 years ago, a little bit more than that. I came here with my brother and a friend, and we drove into town, sight unseen, and we were about looking at the map going, we're like an hour away, where are the mountains? You know, we're down in the desert, we're coming to town, and then we got here, and it was like love at first sight. Like so many of you who came here for the first time, who just absolutely fell in love with this beautiful place. I met my wife here a year later. She's a teacher at Hemingway Elementary. We have 2 young kids. There's nobody in this room that could be any more invested in the community's current state and the future state than I am. I love this place. I've lived here. I've sort of refused to leave. But I've also worked with people over the course of the last 12 years who have had to move out of town because they couldn't find the housing or the jobs and things like that. And we really need to we need to turn our focus to that and also to preserving what we have. And I really think that we're all on the same page with that. And I think it's just time to move forward. And anyways, thank you, and you know, vote for me if you think I'm worth it.
Thank you. Andy Korak.
Well, there's a learning curve to all new adventures, and I would like to use my first term experience to apply it to the job at hand. My top priorities are to continue improvements to make our town user-friendly for all. That we're working on a passive park in the north end of the Big Wood River that you get a view of the Hemingway House. I want to keep working on that. I would like to create a welcome sign at the beginning of our entrance of our town that's artful, and work with the arts community with that. I'd like to diversify our visitor opportunity. I worked on this, or I talked about this in my last election, and I worked on it a bit during my first term, and that's expanding our visitor opportunities by capturing those RV and campers that are going right through town all summer long, and even on our shoulder seasons.
I have been involved in things like the Women's March. I've been going to indivisible meetings. I've been going to Marching Forward. I've been trying to get involved in lots of different ways. I have read all of the notes online. I think it's great that they are online, and I try and stay informed via the paper.
Thank you.
I've been to every city council meeting since late June and sat soup to nuts through almost all of them, sometimes till pushing 10 o'clock. I have been intermittently in the couple years before that. I'm also the only person up here tonight who went and stood up for Pete Prekkages and Grumpy's at his planning and zoning hearing last week, and he could really use that support. So,
Thank you.
I've attended a handful of meetings over the past couple of years, depending on what issues are on the agenda, and I've also streamed certain meetings online. I'm glad that that is a possibility for us. However, these meetings are too long, and they don't stick to the agendas, and no good decisions get made at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. There are other cities who manage to get their city council meetings done in a couple of hours because they work efficiently, they have work sessions, and they get a lot of that stuff out of the way before it comes time to decision time. So if I'm on council, I will make sure to push for efficient, shorter meetings, which will allow more people to attend them, people like me with kids, and will allow for good decision making that isn't done late at night.
Thank you. Amy Korak.
I've been to everyone for 4 years, and and I was on. So, and before that, I was a participant on a pretty regular basis. So, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. Shannon.
Fair enough. I've been to, I think, about 6 meetings in the last 6 months, which I think is about half of them. And I've been to, I don't know, a lot of meetings over the last 6 years or whatever the question referred to. I've been a director for the last 5 years on the Sun Valley Board of Realtors. And the interesting thing about that is that we get briefed by a full-time government affairs director about everything that's going on, not just in Ketchum, but in Haley, the county, Bellevue, and all that sort of stuff, which brings me back to the desperate need to collaborate with all of our community throughout the valley, because it really is one community.
Thanks. Mickey Garcia.
So, in the last 20, 30 years, I've been somewhere between 50 and 100 of these P&Z and city council meetings and county commission meetings and blah, 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 blah. And it's turned my mind to mush listening to that. There's only 2 possibilities coming out of it that I can think of. Is that they appoint stupid people to government positions, or they get stupid by being in government.
Eric Curley.
It's a tough nut to follow. Start my time now.
You government official, Barry?
So I started with the P&Z for 3 years. That was 72 meetings, rough math. I've been to 416 meetings in the 16 years I've been on council, but then I've probably been to over 800 or 900 meetings with SPED, Flaxland Valley Alliance, the Marketing Alliance, as well as going to county meetings and the FMAA. And my daughter works at Grumpy's, but council isn't allowed to go in P&Z, so I couldn't go support Pete Prekkages.
Thank you. Courtney Hamilton.
I've been to probably 4 meetings in the last few months, and I am with Amanda. I think it is really hard to create civic engagement when the meetings are unpredictable time-wise, and they're at a time where a lot of the younger population and the younger families can't attend because they're either working or they have small children. So I would love to bring technology into collaboration through City Council. I think we could do a better job of incorporating public opinion through pre-written emails, and hopefully that could help make the meetings a little bit more reliable time-wise and improve our civic engagement.
Thank you very much.
And developing small business administration help for existing brick and mortar businesses. It all used to do just a little bit better are just 2 of my initiatives on that front. Economically healthy community members create a healthy local economy. We can save ourselves. My diverse background, skills, and experiences, from tech entrepreneur to independent contractor to working in trades and retail here, make me the best candidate to shepherd Ketchum through this upcoming transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're now going to take some questions from the media. And I will remind the candidates, I think you've noticed that my colleague Allison Kindred here has a stop sign. And the answers for this portion of questions from the media and questions from the public, you'll have 30 seconds to answer, and Allison will indicate when your time is up. You can finish your thought, but please don't start a new thought or a new sentence once your time has elapsed. Okay, are there any other media folks here other than Peter Jensen from the Mountain Express? Okay. Well, Peter Jensen, Idaho Mountain Express, first question.
All right, I'm Peter. I'm a reporter with the Idaho Mountain Express. Great to see everybody tonight. My first question is kind of a three-parter. How many housing units does Ketchum need? Where should they be located? And who should pay for them?
Okay, we'll start with Annie Korak and we'll move down the line.
The question of how many is highly disputed. It's always been 500 has been a big number, the biggest number that I've been around needing. I think we're at about 60 to 99. I've heard the numbers move around on that too in the Ketchum area. Where should they be? We're right now where we're proposing they are and where we're pushing them to be is in the downtown area to make it thrive. And we have an incentive program for development to be able to build greater housing or build a larger product if they include the public benefit of housing.
Thank you. Shannon Flavin.
As far as the number of housing units, I think that more than we have now. And I don't mean that facetiously, but we need a lot more rental units that are affordable. But then we need to let the market decide how many properties for purchase we need. They should be put, in my opinion, the light industrial area is the first area that we have the opportunity to rezone and work. And then there's the McCannville and Gateway areas that are in the county that we need to collaborate with. And as far as who should pay for them, it should be an open market, in my opinion. I think that we have an opportunity to build market rate housing that meets this demand.
Thank you. Mickey Garcia.
Yeah. 500 to 700 is my answer. Rental units. Second part answer is anywhere and everywhere possible. The third, what was the third part of that?
Who should pay for it? Who should pay for it?
A combination of government grants and such as that. And I agree with people who say we should try for housing that's market rate and not subsidized, but that's probably not possible.
Thank you. Eric Gourlay.
I don't know that the number matters because by the time we get to it, we're going to need more. So they need to be everywhere. They need to be in the ACI, which is the area of city impact. They need to be in the LI. They need to be in the core. We should probably look at the zoning ordinance and consider whether we should have a smaller lot sizes. As far as paying for it, it's going to be very difficult. Really, the community needs to pull together, and the city can pay for some, development can pay for others, and I think that retail should chip in as well, because they're the ones that really need the employees.
Thank you. Courtney Hamilton.
In a conversation that I had with a housing authority, they said that we needed 200 units just for service workers. So I think we need 200 smaller units for service workers that are looking for really low rents. But I think we also need a couple hundred more, probably middle income houses for families in Ketchum. In terms of location, I think North Valley is our top priority. Keeping Ketchum's teachers and emergency services workers in our town and all of the other employees in our town. It has a benefit to our town through lot taxes, and also just creating stronger culture. And in terms of who pays for it, I think it's a combination. The city can help with zoning and incentives to make it start to pencil for developers.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go with as many as possible. We should be moving creatively and quickly. We need to act and act now. I think that we should put them everywhere. There's plenty of vacant lots around town. There's areas that can be rezoned. There's areas that can be redone into more dense places. I think that we can pay for it through private investors, city monies that can be repaid through rents, and then also through investigating grants.
Thank you.
Hundreds, if we think of 500 now, then we should maybe even be thinking about 1,000. We need to look further into the future. The light industrial is the most economically viable location. I do believe that the more people who live in the downtown core, the more vital. Economic conditions are difficult to create market rate there. I think we should move back to requiring housing with development. In terms of paying for it in the light industrial and through rentals, we can leverage the county's tax incentives for that.
Thank you. Amanda Breen.
The number of units is a moving target. Let's just get some built, because frankly, the last 4 years, I think we can all agree we haven't had any action on this front. Where? The South Gateway area, obviously we need to work with our partners in the county and with Sun Valley and address some issues there, but that is a wonderful area for some really creative, diverse types of housing, both rental and purchase, as well as increasing the height and density limits in the light industrial to allow more live-work units. And who should pay? Well, the city's got to do some buy-in. The city has its own land. It could be pursuing and be a lot more aggressive on tax credit projects. And obviously we need to make the code more favorable to developers so it pencils out for them.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll take another question from Peter Jensen, Idaho Mountain Express.
Thank you. What business sector should drive the city's economy in the future?
Okay, we'll start with Shannon and we'll keep mixing it up as we move down.
Thanks. Well, obviously the core area is always going to be the heartbeat of Ketchum, and I think it needs to continue to be. That being said, if the Ketchum core is the heartbeat of Ketchum, then I think that the light industrial area is the brain of Ketchum, and there's a huge percentage of the jobs and businesses that center themselves in that area. And I know I talk a lot about rewriting the zoning code for more housing in those areas, but we need to do so in a way that protects the business uses in those areas, and maybe even expands a little bit on the business uses so that we can sort of move out of the old days and into the new days with that regard.
Thank you. Mickey Garcia.
Repeat the question real quick.
What business sector should drive the city's economy in the future?
What business sectors should drive the city's economy in the future?
Well, obviously, we're a tourist town, but we need to diversify our economy. So all possible business sectors that can come to this town and make a living.
Thank you, Bear Gourlay.
Yeah, when I was in college, my wife cut my hair, and my dad told her to stick to things she was good at. And I've taken that to heart. So we are a tourist economy, and we need to stay good at it. But you know, KIC is working on a lot of different ventures. It's worthwhile to consider other opportunities. I mentioned it before in my opening statement. There are tech-savvy industry that are interested in Ketchum because of our lifestyle, and we need to pursue those as possible other businesses.
Thank you.
I'd agree. I think tourism is core to our community and always will be. But I do think it's important to diversify Ketchum's economy, and I think that the KIC offers some great alternatives for that. I think I personally have worked in the tech industry here, and I think that Ketchum is a great place for the tech industry because we don't have the needs of manufacturing and transportation. That's what drove some of the other companies out of Ketchum. And I also think we're a great place for small, mid-sized companies such as First Light and Beyond Coastal and Orflow, who are growing and can use our city's quality of life to attract future employees.
Thank you.
I think energy is going to be the best place that we can expand business-wise. It's a risk that can be an opportunity for us. Citizens and businesses can become stockholders in the future in the environment. Right now, we're really in danger of losing that young, environmentally conscious skier and Olympian to other resorts. We need to catch up. We need to be the first. We need to be the best. We need to be the beacon of hope. And we can do that by becoming an eco-town with our own energy.
I don't think the city should be in the business of choosing. I think the city should be in the business of enabling. We are a resort economy that is not going anywhere, not just because of what's around us, but because of who we are. I think we need to work closely with the KIC. I've also started conversations there about how to get more individuals to leverage the skills and talents that they already have to join the national economy. And I've also been involved in conversations with Visit Sun Valley about how to broaden our tourism base to attract more year-round visitors for a wider range of reasons.
Thank you. Amanda Breen.
We're always going to be a tourist economy, and I think this room we're sitting in, this hotel we're sitting in, is great evidence of that. But we do need more diversity in the other types of companies here, and thanks to modern technology we can do that. But again, we're not going to have a lot of new companies here, bring new ones, or have them start here if there's nowhere for their employees to live.
Thank you. Annie Korok.
I agree with everything everyone said, and I also just want to encourage the people that have a passion to have business here. That's how Scott and Smith were here. It wasn't until they were bought from outside industries that they left. The ones that are here that were mentioned by Coastal, Beyond Coastal and Chums, they're here because the owners are passionate, and so embracing the passion of the community and encouraging them to do their businesses here is key.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's so many of you here tonight that I'll now move on to questions from you, the audience, and then if we have time, we can circle back to one more from Peter. Before I take any questions, just let me remind you that we ask that you direct your questions in a way that all of the candidates can answer them, and please don't direct something specifically to one candidate, and please try to keep them succinct so we can keep moving along. So, yes sir, please speak up as well.
Where do you stand on moving the city service or city buildings to the Forest Service?
Where do you stand on moving city services to Forest Service Park? We'll start with, where are we here? Mickey Garcia.
I don't like it much. I think we need to move City Hall to the light industrial and leave the Forest Service Park alone.
Thank you. Baird Gourlay.
I think it's very interesting. I think that we need to talk to the Forest Service and make sure that there's compliance there. But and we need to talk to the public. We need to see how you, the public, feel about whether we move it there or not. It is underutilized, and it probably has the potential to fit at least administrative and P&Z. It certainly would not be capable of police or fire, which, as Mickey stated, would be better suited in the LI.
Thank you. Courtney Hamilton.
I tend to agree with that. I think the Forest Service Park offers some interesting advantages given that it has a very central location and it has potential to be a smaller budget than building a new building. I think that a new city hall is an opportunity to create more civic engagement, and I think that having it in a central and historic part of Ketchum can do so. But that being said, there may be other alternatives. I think finances play a big role into it, but I also think that creating something that fosters civic engagement is important.
Thank you.
I think we should look at economies of scale and think about maybe combining some of these services with other entities in this county.
I like it. It keeps the city offices and city council and city administrators in the public, accessible to the public. That lot is incredibly underutilized. Otherwise, there's a whole half of the lot that many of us don't even realize exists that's behind Ketchum Alive. It's an inexpensive option, and it offers us the greatest flexibility to offer our emergency services the best facilities that we can give them. Combining everything together is too difficult to do at once.
Thank you.
Well, it sure sounds a lot better than a $23 million palace, which is what the voters were asked to approve and which we soundly rejected. However, I think that Forest Service Park is not the ideal place for the city. Number one, if the city wants people to come to meetings, the meeting space there is going to be awfully cramped. Plus, we really need to remember the core purpose of Forest Service Park and what it does for our city. I fundamentally disagree with Baird about where we need to have the police and fire. Those are essential services that need to be in the downtown core. They should not be out in the light industrial. We cannot afford to increase response times. And frankly, fire stations are really the center of a lot of communities, and I think they need to stay in the center of town.
Annie Cora.
We're just in the process of taking a look at Forest Service Park right now and seeing what the viability is to move our services there without disrupting any of the current uses and the historic value of it. So that's where we're at. That's what I want to participate in. And if it works, I think it's a great place to go.
Okay, Shannon Flavin.
I'm fundamentally against moving into Forest Service Park. I think that Forest Service Park should remain a park. And if we're underutilizing it, then maybe we need to ask ourselves if we need to drink more beer and listen to more music. You know, as far as the emergency services go, I think that looking at some of the areas in the LI, some of the areas of the LI aren't buried way back in random places, and it seems to me like the LI district is sort of center to the entire area when you account for Warm Springs. And I think that there's plenty of commercial space out there that we can utilize for City Hall and administration.
Thank you very much. Okay, next question. Ma'am.
Yep. Ketchum is getting older. In 2000, the median age in Ketchum was 39. And last year it was 52 and a half. So my question to the candidates is, do you see this as problematic, and if so, what will you do about it?
Ketchum is getting older. Is it problematic? And if so, what would you do about it? We'll start with Baird Gourlay.
Thanks a lot. So, I turn 60 tomorrow. I won't say that I can kick my son's ass mountain biking, but I can keep up with him. So, hopefully it's not a problem. I think our aging community has a lot to give to this community, especially in knowledge. You know, we need to look to the elderly to actually help the youth. So, hopefully that's what I can do.
Thank you. Courtney Hampton.
I think it is a problem. I think if we lose the labor force of Ketchum, then we lose the commerce in Ketchum, and Ketchum becomes another resort community, with Haley being the center of the working people, the younger people, and the commerce. And that's one of my top concerns, and that's why I'm running, is to get the younger population more involved and to get their issues heard so that we can hopefully try to combat this aging population that we have in Ketchum.
Thank you.
I think it's a blessing and a problem. Of course, we don't want the entire population to age out and then all of a sudden you have a housing bubble burst because everyone is selling their homes at the same time because they need different kinds of services and a different kind of lifestyle. We need to make sure that the population stays diverse and that we're having enterprise and events and a culture that encourages young people to be here and to be heard and feel like they're welcome.
Thank you.
I'd like to think for a moment about what causes that statistic. I think a lot of it is not just older people moving in, but families moving south. That takes not only people around the earlier median age, but also their children out of that population. I've been excited to see more and more younger people, like at the Hot Water Inn. Those events show me that there are more younger people here than you may think, and I think we very, very certainly need to be much more welcoming. I agree with Courtney, there's a great deal of uncertainty around living here, and we need to fix that.
Thank you very much. Amanda Breen.
Well, all of the older people here were once younger people, and they came back when it was a lot easier to come to a ski town and be a ski bum, and ski all day, and wait tables at night, and do it every day. And so we need to still have those opportunities for people coming out of college now. And guess what? If they don't have a place to live, that's going to be hard to do. So we need to, again, everything that the city council and that the city does over these next 4 years is to address that huge problem is how do we have a place for these people to come live, start their companies, be tech entrepreneurs, and wait tables for us.
Thank you. Andy Crop.
This has always been an issue in a resort community, and ours especially, it seems like. So I like the idea that was presented down there of more events and things like that that embrace the younger community. I think that jobs are the key to keeping people here. We've all, those of us that have grown up here, we all had 2 and 3 jobs, and some of us still do. So it takes a culture that is willing to be here for the quality of life and make those sacrifices, and for us to provide those opportunities for them to engage in those quality of life decisions.
Thank you.
I think our population is awesome. I look out in front of me right now and I see a beautifully diverse audience which representing a lot of different age brackets. So I think that we have something special here. I know what Annie's asking there, and I understand that. And I think the answer to that lies in what young people want, and that's jobs, places to live, and fun things to do. We all know that we got the ladder in spades, so now we need to turn our focus onto the jobs and the places to live. And if we do that, I think it's going to take care of itself.
Thank you. Mickey Garcia.
Yeah, first of all these old rich people ought to take in a young family into their house. And we ought to encourage old people like myself to commit suicide as soon as possible. And going back earlier to what Brad was saying about his, Barrett was saying about his youth, is I'm an old guy, and I cut my own hair, and I make my own dentures. Can you dig it?
Thank you very much. Okay, another question right here. Yes, sorry.
Okay, sure. So just following up on the question that divided Ketchum by demographics, the young and the old, I wanted to ask a question about, I moved here last month, so I'm very new to Ketchum, and I've met a lot of people that have been here for decades. And so I've been hearing stuff about, people that are very pro-development and sort of keeping the integrity of things the way they were. So could each of you tell me about where you stand on that and what specific policy you might be a proponent of where we could all share a common ground?
Okay, where do you stand on development and how it measures up against our culture here? We'll start with Courtney Hamilton.
I think there's a fine line for development in Ketchum. I think, like I said in my opener, I think it's important to consider the culture and traditions of Ketchum, and so it's tailored development towards what we want Ketchum to be, and what Ketchum's historic value is, and what it is that draws visitors to Ketchum and drives our economy. So I think we do need development to allow people to live here. I think that's a really important part of the development that we need. And I also think we need to preserve the culture of our town.
Thank you.
Well, I think a place that we can have common ground on is in innovation. I really believe strongly that if we invest in our own energy, in our own solar, that kind of industry is something that does protect the integrity of the town. We came from a place where we were the very first innovators of the ski lift. It's amazing that we came from that place. We need to be innovators now, And that doesn't hurt the integrity of the town at all. It gives us new opportunities to be in a really special place and be a leader nationally and internationally.
Thank you.
In order for some things to remain the same, others must change because the world around us is changing. I personally don't equate the character of this town with the size of a building. In many ways, this town 20, 25 years ago had more vitality in the downtown, not because there were larger buildings, but because there were more people living close to town. They were able to walk, they were able to interact. We need growth in order to change and adapt to the new world. One of the reasons we're facing a problem today is because we've capped growth in a way that's priced that character out of the town, the market.
Thank you. Amanda Green.
Ketchum has a comprehensive plan that really expresses our values and what we want from this community, and it's important to keep that in mind. And I think because of that, we're never going to be a Vail, we're never going to be a Jackson, and I'm so happy about that. At the same time, we know the big problems we're facing, and so if we need to look at our code again and look at how we can make some changes to encourage that development we need in smart ways, in smart places, as well as to offer incentives to developers to build the type of developments we want that we think are going to make our town more livable for the next generation.
Thank you. Andy Korok.
Well, as I said before, and a lot of people have repeated, it's the quality of life that's brought us here. It's the environment. It's all of those things, and the people that come here embrace that. And I think that the development needs to be taking the needs of the people who come here for those reasons into consideration as they move forward, and not just work towards the visitor and our high volume of second home owners. So work towards having full-time resident homes and opportunities for shopping here.
Shannon Flavin.
We need to always protect what we all find dear about Ketchum. The charm, the integrity, the natural beauty around us. It always needs to be center for everything that we decide upon. That being said, we also need to respect the people who are willing to come here and invest in our community and make it a better place. And in order to do that, we do need to rewrite chunks of the code. It's very difficult to navigate, and it's very difficult for somebody to know what they can and cannot do the way that things are written. And I think that we need to respect them and take care of those issues so that we can move forward.
Mickey Garcia.
Yeah, the real problem is that too many of the Ketchum public, they're sociopathically against development. They're anti-development. Examples: we just turned down a gasoline station on Highway 75. It cuts right through town. That was a travesty. And that was the same thing with the Supreme Court. We're fighting about left and right people on the Supreme Court, but it's not so obvious here, but it's still important. If you appoint members that are against development to the P&Z, you're going to get those kind of decisions. This building right here is the third iteration. The first iteration, a local businessman started out with a small development. Now look at, this is huge compared to that. So the people that want to stop development are not getting their way. They're causing bigger development. I can go on with this. 30 seconds isn't enough for the subject.
Thank you, Bear Gourlay.
No, that was Mickey. So hopefully it's the loyal and trustworthy people that are all of you that make this community really what it is. I mean, that's why I live here. As Mickey stated, this building is a approval of a former administration that I was involved with. It's 68 feet tall. Now, I'm not saying that all of Ketchum needs to be 68 feet, but if we're going to add to the inventory that houses people, we need to think about density, and density means height.
Like a 10-foot outcropping where you can have access to the roof or rooftop deck or something along those lines. I think the core area height restrictions less of a concern right now than the light industrial. I think in that area we would probably all agree that as we drive into town from the north, looking off towards Baldy over blacktop roofs and industrial area isn't necessarily an appealing, great thing, and we can raise the height limits there to allow us to create more market rate housing without impacting our Ketchum core area and the aesthetic appeal of the beautiful area that we live in.
Thank you. Mickey Garcia.
So the old Ketchum schoolhouse was, the top of the bell tower was over 60 feet tall. That building was built before the turn of the century. We have precedent for tall buildings. Furthermore, the height of Baldy is 3,000 feet from the valley floor. I mean, what is this stuff that gets short and gets small? Aesthetically speaking, the closer we get to the mountain, the taller we should be able to build a building. And 60 or 80 feet tall is not out of the question for me.
Thank you. Eric Gurley.
Well, ultimately, it's the public's decision. I think that really we need to have public discussion about it, but I've been involved with some focus groups recently that say that it's not a 5-year window and a 10-year window, it's more like a 50-year window. Look, we approved 102 feet down in River Run, so I think that density and looking at the LI are both extremely important for increasing the supply for housing.
Courtney Hamilton.
I think, like Baird said, I think height does play a role in density, and I think we do need density to get the kind of housing that our current labor market needs. That being said, I think there is a level of housing for middle-income families that they don't want to live downtown in apartments. And I think to that extent, there is some level of sprawl that we will need in order to create housing that families like that want to have in order to save the family population of Ketchum that we're losing. So that Ketchum has limited ground area, and in order to preserve those demographics, we may need to sprawl a little bit.
Thank you.
I don't know about anyone else who lives in Ketchum, but personally, I have 5 empty lots within 1 block of me. I don't think that we need to increase the height limits in the downtown area. I agree with Annie that there's a lot of infilling that can be done. We don't need to go up. There's plenty of spaces right here in town that we can develop in smart ways and really diversify some of these neighborhoods where they've been left behind. And there's old buildings there that are unused. There's a lot of things that we can do before we go up.
Thank you. Okay, I do have to move this along to the next phase of our forum here, but I will say, I know there probably are some more questions out there. If you have questions or issues you want to raise, you can contact us at the newspaper, or you can also write letters to the editor if there's points you want to try to make. So we'll move on to 1-minute closing statements from the candidates, and we'll start with Sean Phillips.
I'm here to make City Council my primary vocation. I live modestly, I do not have a wife and kids, I'm not currently running a business. I believe that a large part of this job is actively working to move city processes forward, and I've already gotten started over this campaign. Not just in discussions with developers, Board of Realtors, Planning and Zoning Commissioners to separate affordable housing policy issues with discussions about modernizing our downtown core zoning, also light industrial. Also with Visit Sun Valley about broadening our tourist base year-round through a more diverse set of visitors. And with the kick about helping locals use online technology to leverage our education skills and talents and connect ourselves directly with the national economy. We have to become competitive for our own resources. And in fact, I will be starting a committee there at the Kick next week to do just that. Our community is our greatest resource. Unleash our potential, and we can start saving ourselves today. When you're at the ballot box, please vote for me to continue what I've started.
Thank you very much. Anastasia.
Going on our long overdue upgrade of our fire, police, and city service offices until the job is done. It's been a privilege and an adventure serving this community, and I ask for your vote on November 7th. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you. Amanda Green.
You know, during this campaign, I've knocked on a lot of doors and I've talked to a lot of you just around town. And what I keep hearing from people is, why hasn't anything happened in 4 years? Why is it that we're talking about the same things we were talking about 4 years ago and no progress has been made? I'm told by a lot of people they feel like the city's not listening to them, and that when they come to the city with new ideas or proposals, they're told what's wrong with them instead of what's right and how can we help. We need strong voices on the city council who are going to stand up for the people of Ketchum, listen to what they're saying, and advocate for them. I'm an advocate for a living every day, and I look forward to advocating for you as your next city council person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have 8 candidates running for the city council, and in Ketchum you have 2 seats open. So on November 7th you'll be asked to vote for 2 of these 8 candidates up here. But let's thank them for participating tonight. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then we'll start the mayor's discussion. Thank you.
He does use consultants to help with labor. And I solicit opinions either if people don't come and show up, we make phone calls and we go for coffee, we go out to the bars, we solicit opinions from a wide range of people. It's very obvious when it's one interest group in the room.
Thank you. Neil Bradshaw.
Paid consultants have a role, but our community has a bigger role. Our community is really talented and really magical in what it brings to this town. That's our first stop, our community, and that's what I plan to do when I'm mayor of Ketchum. I plan to reach out to the community first because I think that's our best resource. And I'm talking about volunteers, people who have no conflict, no special interest, no agenda, just people who want to help. Because you know, in this town, we've got a lot of people who want to help.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take another question from Peter Jensen.
Are new apartment complexes an appropriate development for Ketchum? And if so, where should they be located?
Okay, Neil Bradshaw.
Apartment complexes are appropriate, small houses are appropriate. We need a diversity of housing, and we need to pursue that now. And so, as part of my program to implement, we're going to put a housing plan that addresses all types of housing, whether it be apartments, small homes. It looks at locations right here in town, locations at the area of city impact, just opposite the hospital. All those are potential opportunities for us to get a diversity of housing. So absolutely, it's part of the program.
Thank you.
Diversity of opportunity is key to a community success. So yes, I think apartments are essential. I think they should probably be located in community core, in the residential areas that are high density, and in the light industrial.
To the community and being open to ideas. I'm running for mayor to bring this kind of community-inspired leadership to City Hall so we can foster social, economic, and cultural vibrancy, and so it truly can be a city for all seasons. To do this, we need to act on 3 critical issues. First, we need to increase public participation and transparency in the city for all projects, including a new building for City Hall and the new facilities for our firefighters and police force. Second, we absolutely need to create diverse housing choices so that workers, families, and young people can find a home to rent or buy. We need a housing plan and we need to act now. As a volunteer and president of the Ketchum Community Development Corp, I worked on a very successful Northwood Place project, and I want to repeat that kind of success while keeping Ketchum's character intact. Third, we need to foster a sustainable, resilient local economy, and we can do that by mentoring local entrepreneurs so we can create and retain location-neutral, non-seasonal jobs that will diversify our economy. Finally, as a city, we need to repair our relationships with our county partners. Turning our backs on our partners compromises our safety. We all want to make communities safe, and that requires collaboration. Ultimately, I'm a community builder. To build community, we need to have a city hall that works for us all. I ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 2-minute opening statement, Nina Jonas.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight and sitting through the council debate and now this, and thanks to the Mountain Express and the Limelight for hosting this debate. After 4 years as your mayor and 4 years on the city council, I understand the challenges and business of operating the city of Ketchum, an investment you made with me. As a local business owner and operator of Rickshaw Restaurant, I know the value of $1. When I was elected, the city was running on the fumes of deficit budgeting. Today we have a $24 million balanced budget. Because of this recovery, I have been able to invest $6 million in infrastructure on everything from tennis courts to new sidewalks, energy efficiencies to public art. I'm a 5th-generation Valley resident. My great-great-grandma Brown came here in 1884 by ox cart. This town is in my soul, and I believe in fighting for it. That's why I fought to protect the Boulder White Clouds and Jerry Peak Wilderness. I believe that our resident population gives our community its vibrant colors and its diversified small business economy. I have replenished the Community Housing Fund and opened opportunities for new businesses, companies as wide-ranging as sporting apparel, cutting-edge technology, and even a sensory deprivation tank. I believe in the role of government. I believe in democracy. Good governance leads to a healthier and more prosperous community. This only works by representing all of you, the people of Ketchum. I want your input. I need your help building your ideas into action. 4 years ago, I was elected with twice the votes of my opponent. I attributed this to people being fed up with a city government that was serving only specific interests. There was a total lack of a transparent decision-making. We should not forget what this was like. After all, the special interest folks in this town would rather have a private government that works for them. Now, the very same people who funded and supported the previous administration are supporting my opponent. I believe Ketchum is bigger than this politics. And while you may not show up at every council meeting, I am there fighting for all of us. Thank you for allowing me to serve our community these past 4 years as your mayor. It will be an honor to serve you another 4.